Welcome back to Nebraska Hawk's Nest. I'm here with the guy that probably has the coolest job in America, Mr. Greg Morris. Welcome to the broadcast today. We're very happy to have you.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, Adam. This is going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. We're excited to talk to you. One thing we really wanted to ask you about is how did you get into your role as the Iowa football equipment manager?
Yeah.
What got you into that? And how long have you been doing it for? I know you've been in that role for quite a while now.
I've been in the chair for a while. It's really interesting. So I started in school here in the fall of '79 and entered the athletic training program. And through that time, continued with all that. Well, my fifth year of school, is when was the opening of Carver Hawkeye Arena. So in the old rec building where we moved from, the equipment manager there hired a couple students who kind of knew the landscape. So I spent my fifth year of school working in the equipment room and found out that I liked that too. When I graduated, I did a couple things. One is I did go to work for Rockwell Collins in Cedar Rapids at their employee fitness center as an athletic trainer, but I volunteered on Saturday of home games to help dugout. Was maybe visiting team liaison a little bit, worked the sidelines. And then in the fall of '88, when a job opened up, I was lucky enough to get it and I have been here ever since.
All right. Well, you must be doing a pretty darn good job. They kept you around that long.
Yeah, so far so good. Like with any job, there are some days, but
yeah.
The bottom line is, I was lucky. I grew up in a great family. My mom and dad taught me how to do things right, and that's what I bring to work every day and have. Some people, the integrity of the University of Iowa when you have this job is number one. We deal with millions of dollars worth of stuff every year, a rather large inventory, and it can't go out the back door. It cannot be distributed the wrong way. I mean, that you got university, Big Ten, and NC2A rules, along with just the pure right and wrong of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people this. At times, I'm not the most popular guy in the building, but at the end of the day, we've always done things right. And to me, that's the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And in anything that you do. So it's practicing good habits.
Yeah.
You always, we always hear you say a lot out there, you got the best crew in the business.
Yeah.
And, see you guys, I love seeing the pictures of you guys getting things set up before the game. Very cool. Tell me a little bit about the crew that you have and the process going into getting the team set up for a home game, maybe versus a road game.
Sure. So a few years ago, I coined the phrase best crew in the land, and every other equipment manager in the United States is jealous because that's ours. They can't steal it. And if they do, they're copycatting, and we'll get after them for that. Yeah, just kidding.
We'll go get them.
Yeah. There you go. When I say that we have the best crew, I really, really, really mean that. When we move, and we do move every week, we either move from the football building, the Hanson Football Performance Center, across the Kinnick, or we move across the country. You're talking about, if we're on the road, it's 70 players, 30 plus staff members. If we're at home, we usually address 100, same kind of staff members. And those kids, and they're undergraduate students. Most recently, we have had some kids that have decided to pursue their graduate studies here on campus and continue to be a manager. But those guys are here 7 days a week with us. And I will tell you this, there isn't a task that I can remember or recall that we haven't given to them that they haven't done it the right way. Now, along the way with young people, sure, there's learning curves. There's learning every day. I still continue to learn. But when I say they're the best crew, I really mean that, because if nothing else, Adam, I understand this. Without their hands, I'd never get my job done. And then along with those guys, I have a separate group that works for me just internally in the equipment room. And that's another 8 to 10 people. And we need that many just to get the hours of operation covered. We don't really, if I could find 4 people to do it, we would, but it just doesn't work out. Those people are directly responsible to me. The best crew guys start with our football operations director, Paul Federici, and Ben Hansen, the assistant director. But ultimately, when the moving parts in a lot of situations happen, it comes down to me helping them and them helping me.
All right. A lot of teamwork going on there. That's it's got to be a pretty satisfying feeling standing back from the locker room and being like, oh, this is great. One question that I just kind of thought of too, with traveling on the road, Iowa is very famous for, the pink visiting locker room. What is maybe the toughest, most difficult locker room on the road that you guys have ever been to get set up?
Yeah. A long time ago, we played at Tulsa, and that was no joy. I mean, the locker room was really tight, bad, dimly lit. Right now in the Big Ten, Northwestern's tough and Purdue is tough only because there's not a lot of room. The stadiums were built, 80, 90, 100 years ago or whatever. And a lot of them are landlocked, meaning that you're not going to expand the locker room. I mean, you're just sunk. I'll be interested going forward what COVID may force athletic directors or administrations maybe to think a little bit more about spreading people out. Whether it will or won't, I don't know. They're always clean. It's space. Most of them are set up for traveling group of 60 or less, probably 15 to 18 coaches or less. Well, now we're traveling with 70. Our staffs are between 30 and 40, depending on what school you're at. It's just hard to get everybody in a good spot all the time, I think is the best way to say it. And right now, Minnesota has the best place to go to because their place is brand new, and ours is probably the second for space. Ours is just tough right now to get to because there's only one elevator. It does make it a little time consuming, but once you get stuff into Kinnick, you got all the room in the world to deal with it.
That's what I've heard from coaches is they always get asked about the pink locker room in Iowa City. And they're like, well, it's pink, but we like it because there's a lot more room in that locker room than a lot of other places.
Yeah.
Years in the past, especially it seemed like through the 80s, I had a lot of coaches, putting paper up over the walls and trying to cover that up. You don't hear about that quite as much now. Is that something that you ever hear about happening anymore? Or do you think that coaches have kind of moved past that?
All right. So here's maybe what I'll let you in on a secret that maybe people have or have remembered. Maybe they have never heard this. To the best of my recollection, from when Hayden had that thing painted pink, 40 years ago, anybody that's ever come in and put paper on the walls, be it the old locker room, which was in the southeast corner of the stadium, or the new place, they've never won. I mean, when I see paper going up undefeated, immediately sticks in my mind.
You've already got to them then.
Yeah, we've got to them. Absolutely. We've got, and that was Hayden's deal. It's just a color. And there are times when somebody nationally will make issue of that. It's just a color. And if you worry about that color, you're not worried about the game.
Yeah. No, that's very true. What is the biggest difference, if any, that you would say from working for a staff like Hayden's to transitioning to Kirk's tenure? Was there any big differences as an equipment team that you had to adjust to?
Yeah. The biggest thing, Kirk likes to drink coffee on Saturday. So we had to learn. I'm not a coffee drinker. I love coffee. Or I love the smell of it, excuse me. So I learned how to make coffee. I mean, and I say that in just the advantage you have, anybody would tell you this that's in this business. If you hire a coach that is used to the operation and you've been successful, chances are it's not going to change much. And that sure, there's subtle changes. We work out a different time here, do this, do that. But at the end of the day, it's still about doing things right at Iowa in order to win. And Kirk has done that.
Yeah. He's the, standard of consistency. And that's,
exactly.
It's been a huge draw, especially for kids wanting to go in there. I've talked about this on previous interviews. It's, kids are going to, you would think they'd want to go somewhere where they know the coach is going to be there by the time they graduate. That's not the case a lot of places or most places, but that is the case at Iowa.
Yeah.
What role do you guys play when you have a recruit come in and, obviously they want to take a tour of the facility, see the equipment room, see everything.
Sure.
What role do you guys play in that process?
So there was a time where, and this is just evolving, and it has more to do with time when they're on campus and activities planned. There was a time I used to meet individually with each person, with each potential recruit. Then it kind of changed to more like a group where you'd visit with them. Today, there's not a lot of hands-on or interaction with a recruit, but we do set the locker room up much like it's game day. So they'll have a helmet, jersey, pants, shoes, all the stuff that our guys So when they come in, when you see those pictures posted, we've set all that up. And that's what we do. Now, that's not to say that, like when Anthony Nelson came in on his, I'll just use his name. If it's or AJ Epinesa, those guys played when I started working here, so I know them. So they'll bring their sons by to say hi, and that's been really kind of fun too. Really fun. That part of recruiting is really cool.
And AJ's dad is just such a cool guy. I mean, I'm sure he's just a blast to have, around the facilities. He's got a really outgoing, fun personality. Yeah. So it's been a lot of fun to see that family enjoy the success of AJ and see that come to fruition.
No, absolutely. And Epi, as we call him, or Pete and Repeat. Hayden used to call him Pete and Repeat. he hasn't changed at all. His personality hasn't changed at all. He's still the very kind, caring guy that I knew as a player. He's got a great family. Eric just started here the other day. So we've got another one in the building, which is really cool. It is a fun family. You hit the nail on the head there. It's a real neat, fun family to be around.
He definitely instills a work ethic in his kids that's unmatched. I mean, it's crazy to see how consistent all those kids know that they're hard workers and they're good kids. So.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'd also throw the word kind in there. They're kind kids. They know that if they're not doing something right, Dad's going to talk to them about it, or Mom. I think Mom too.
Yeah,
no doubt about that.
We drove up. It would have been a couple of years ago for a spring game, and they'd been doing a photo shoot, I think, before, like the team pictures.
Sure.
And just ironically, we're driving around Kinnick, and a bunch of the guys are walking by, and they're starting to walk out, to cross the street, and we're stopping. Yeah. And AJ steps out, blocks everybody, and says, "Stop, guys," and then waves us along. I'm like, so player of the team, that's setting an example of, not being a great player, but being a good human too.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all. One thing that I think a lot of people would love to hear is, just the world that we live in now. Fans get super jacked up for the alternate uniforms. When we bust out when we had the gold ones against Penn State, the blackout uniforms against Ohio State, and then, the Minnesota ones a few years back when we had the 12-0 season. Tell me about what it's like around the facility, the locker room, when the guys know something like that's coming up, because the players love that kind of thing. And in the future, is the gold uniform going to be the standard for the alternate, or is that just going to be like something that changes from year to year?
So first we'll start with just the plain uniform. I would tell you probably 60% of the guys get excited about it, 40% don't. That's just in my mind. At the end of the day, the alternate uniform, people may find this kind of strange, but the alternate uniform in a player's mind is only cool if you win. And I may be generalizing too much there, but I'll tell you that when you win with them on, they treasure that. When you lose with them on, okay.
Yeah.
The process is interesting. When the first one we did, whatever year that was, we did all the design ourselves and brought it to Nike. Now Nike, we kind of go back and forth with them. People upstairs. I'm in the ground floor of Hanson Football Performance, and the coaches and some of our support staff kind of generate a little bit more of that today. They got a little bit probably better pulse on young people, meaning recruits coming in.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I get this question a lot because alternate uniforms, are here and there. The one thing that I always caution young players, freshmen, true freshmen, and some fans is this: pick a team. I don't care who it is. What are they going to look like today? Do you really know on Saturday? But our uniform has been so consistent over the years. When you turn it on, you see our jersey, whether home or away, our pants, and our helmet. It's Iowa.
Yeah.
So that part, I believe this: you always have to guard or protect your identity, and don't get too carried away, because it's easy to change today. Young people enjoy change. There was a time where they didn't.
Yeah.
But I use the example when they're playing video games, they get tired of video game, they get rid of it and get another one.
Yeah.
There was a time 20 years ago they didn't do that. They just played the same one over or made some changes. Well, now we change a lot more. But sometimes when you get to changing, you got to be cautious about that. Make sure you do it the right way. It's done tactfully, and it still represents who we are.
Yeah, and that was the cool part about when you guys did the gold uniforms. It really embraced, some of that '90s history, and brought back a lot of the history and the videos that were done with it. The production value was super cool. That I think those meant more just because they brought back history of the program, and it hit it on the head, just like you talked about. As long as you don't forget who you are, and if you look back at. You look at a lot of the top programs in the country, you have, Alabama, Clemson, Texas A&M. They're not really doing that. They stick to who they are and, keep their identity the same. So it'll be interesting to see, how that evolves over the years. Yeah. And, if it stays the same, it dies down. Oregon really obviously got that going, and it seems to be on a little bit of a downtick, but, that's how style and things like that go. It goes in waves. So.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, Adam, the other part of that is with more and more teams going to custom helmets like we have, you can change uniform, but you're not going to change helmets as much. Yeah. And I will applaud our staff and Kirk for embracing that. We're the only team in the country right now where all of our upperclassmen have custom fit helmets to them. And they each have two. They got a game helmet and a practice helmet. The true freshman that just started here a few weeks ago, once the coronavirus settles down a little bit more and we're allowed to bring sales people into the building, he'll come in and measure those 12 guys. And then sometime early this summer, we may get a chance to get the rest of them done because they got the process down now to where they can turn them back to us from measurement date to delivery date a lot quicker. But we're really proud of that. To have a helmet that's just for you, other manufacturers have ways to do that, but this is an actual helmet made to fit you.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was actually going to ask you about that. From everything that I've read about it, I know that we were one of the first programs to do that. You were a big, on the cusp of, really pushing that. Yeah. What are all the benefits of doing that, just with like safety and comfort and everything like that?
Yeah. So I'll give you a brief history lesson on how we got to where we're at today. When I started in the equipment room in 1988, there was no air in helmets. It was all cell. It was all foam. And the helmet that we chose at the time to wear was a Rydell. It was called a WD1. Internally, there were 10 different parts. So I can look at the size of your head and say, you're probably a large helmet, much like me.
Yeah, I got a big head.
Yeah, but within that helmet part, within that helmet size, I could change 8 pieces to fit your head, and maybe I only had to change 6 pieces to fit mine or vice versa. Okay. Well, back then we had about 140, 145 guys in a team. We did not have more than 3 people that wore the exact same helmet configuration. So we actually were doing custom helmets back then that didn't, we knew we were doing it, but didn't. Yeah. There wasn't a lot of science behind it. It was just important to us because if it fit your head good, we had a better chance of keeping you healthy. Mm-hmm. So when Rydell went away with that, and what happened is the other manufacturers put a big push on an air component because the idea was, you're not changing parts. It's going to feel better. You got this air bladder, check. So we all kind of followed that. We stuck with Rydell, and every 2 to 3 years, they changed something. And my line to them was, when they went away from the all-cell helmet, went to air, if you ever go back to this, I want to be first. I want to be at the top of the line. So we're probably 4 years into this now. And when they decided, so we were one of the only test schools initially. We had like 6 guys. And we tested them for 2 years before they went into mass production. And then we were the first team in the country to go fit as many as we could. Other teams are think slowly but surely getting there, and I'll tell you why. Because once that helmet's fit to that player's head, you're done. If they come to you and tell you my helmet doesn't fit, they bent the face mask. You put a new face mask back on, you're good to go. So there's 2 things now. One, in my mind, I'm not worried about parts coming apart. I'm not worried about the air bladders leaking. I'm not worried, like right now, what is it? It's probably 26 degrees here. It's snowing so hard you can't see across the street. Yeah. But if we had to play in this, you're taking a 70-degree helmet into 26-degree weather. You're going to change the air pressure. So you're constantly putting air in helmets. We've eliminated all that. The next thing is, if it's made to fit you, it's not going to move as much. It's going to be more comfortable. And we believe that we've just eliminated headaches, as much as we can. And our concussion rate here at Iowa has never been very big, simply because we've the guy that hired me, Doug Garrett, taught me how to fit a helmet, and then our Rydell salesman, and then with my athletic training background, that's important. If you see somebody just flop a helmet on their head, they're not going to be safe. At the end of the day, eventually something's going to happen because the thing's wiggling on you. It's got to be tight if it's going to work to protect you the best that it can.
Okay. That's a lot of really good information.
Yeah, I flooded your mind with some stuff there. Maybe, and I'll tell you this: if I get to talking too fast, slow me down, because that's one of my tendencies.
No, you're great. That was super interesting, and I watched your video tour on it was on YouTube, and I'm trying to remember.
George.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So I'll tell you, we got video tour number 2 coming.
Okay.
George called me the other day. That was an interesting thing because George reached out to me first. I sent him to Steve Rowe, much like I did when we went back and forth yesterday. Yep. Steve approved it, and George flew up here from Austin, Texas with a cameraman. They were here a day and a half.
Wow.
And you know what? He is an interesting, kind, caring person. He called me the other day. We're going to be one of 5 or 6 teams, I think, that he's chosen to do this. We're going to talk about football history is what it's about, the history of the program. So our angle is going to be, I've got a few of our older style uniforms, when they have the big blouse sleeves and all that.
Okay.
And then I'm going to bring my rings and watches in and talk a little bit about that. And George is really good about being innovative. So we'll find something to talk about. I promise you that.
It was a really cool episode. I watched all of those, like just being a college football junkie.
Sure.
And then when yours came up, I'm like, oh my God, like this is like what I've been waiting for.
Sure.
So I probably watched your episode 10 times.
You know, it was really interesting because I had a ton of people reach out to me that saw that. And how much fun they had with the way George did it. I gave him a ton of credit because, he walked in here. I didn't know him. He didn't know me. And I really didn't know what to expect because until I got to know him or he got to know me, he's a man of few words. Okay. He just say, hey, I'll be there. We'll get it done. Don't worry about it. I'm thinking, oh boy, what's going to happen here? But one time with him. Yeah, I really felt bad because when we got done the second day, I really wanted to go out to take him out to lunch. That's how much fun I had with he and his cameraman, and it just didn't work out. So I told him this time, you're not getting out of town until we get a chance to spend some time away from the building.
Well, yeah, and you could tell he had a really good time talking to you too. Because so much experience and so many stories from the last 20 to 30 years. It really has a lot of depth to it, and with that history, one big thing I wanted to ask you, I can't let you go without ever asking you this, about 2002 at Minnesota, when the fans stormed the field, took the goalpost down, and tried to take them out. Everyone wonders, why does Minnesota hate us so much? Go back to that video, and that probably will tell you a few things. Can you tell me a little bit about what that was like in the locker room? And then on a side note of that, maybe what your favorite memory, like post-game memory in the locker room is?
Sure. So the Minnesota up there, obviously it's history, right? We flood the place with 40, 45,000 fans, whatever the number is, you choose it. It was just a game day full of emotion for all of us. To see the goalposts come down and they blew, the loud horn to get people out of the place and all that, it's part of it. And I think to this day, I'm sure somewhere in SEC it probably happened. But, when do you hear of the opposing team tear the home team's goalpost down? Awesome. Now, the ironic thing about that is, so in the locker room, Jim Delaney's in there, presented the trophy. The guys, it wasn't a crazy nut scene, but they were a very mature team. And part of that being mature is they expected to win. I mean, it wasn't by accident. It was a lot of fun. And I think if you talk to any of those guys that were there that day, just the memory of winning, of putting Iowa football back, kind of where we were, because there were 3 or 4 years in there that we struggled, Kirk building the program, Hayden's coming to an end. But here's the best story about that day. If you go back and look at Minnesota Vikings history and look at it, Google Fred Zamberletti. Fred Zamberletti was hired as the first athletic trainer for the Minnesota Vikings, and basically was a part of the Vikings until the day he died probably 2 years ago. Well, anyway, so Fred, anytime Iowa played Minnesota, even though he lived in Minneapolis, he'd always ding people about the Hawks are coming to town, or Gophers are going to get beat. So we get everything done. We get things packed up, run I-35 headed south. My cell phone rings. It's Fred. And you got to know Fred. Fred had a great sense of humor. He was awesome to be around. They really appreciated it. Never forgot the University of Iowa. Greg, we got a big problem. I said, Fred, what's wrong? I think he slipped and break his leg, or he said, no, Greg, we got a real big problem. I said, Fred, what do we need to turn around? No. Said, we've never torn the goalpost down here. Nobody knows how to put them back together.
Oh, that's awesome.
That is great. You know what? And in Fred's kind of witty way, oh, did we laugh?
No.
Oh my God. And he was that day, I got to know Fred over the years. He was so proud to be a Hawkeye. If you Google him, Adam, sometime, there's some great stories on just about where he came from. Dallas Melchert in Iowa.
Okay.
Or it'd be Dallas Melchert High School now. Maybe it was Melchert, Iowa. I can't remember for sure. But I might be a little confused. But anyway, small town Iowa kid. He got here. He had like a learning disability, but figured out was a certified athletic trainer and a physical therapist. I mean, sharp man, fun to be around. But yeah, that's one of the fondest things. And I was lucky enough. I was volunteering at the time in 1985 when number one beat number two. But the funny thing is, a couple of years ago, we beat them back here again underneath the lights. Not too many people could say they're in the same place. A little deja vu the second time around. I stood right on the 50-yard line again. That was cool. That's cool. And obviously, the 4 years when James was here, for a parent to get to live that you don't forget those things. And especially the way he carried himself and the way he played. And I know with me sitting in this chair sometimes, it probably wasn't the easiest for him. But, boy, he sure made the best of it. And it played well. And, if he could have stayed healthy, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened in the National Football League. But, he was up there for 3 years and mulled around a little bit, made a few dollars and made some great friends and great experiences. So what more can you ask for, right?
Well, that's great, because I was actually going to ask you about him next and just to see how he's doing. Last I checked, is he still working with Principal Financial Group?
Yeah, he's working with Principal in Des Moines Financial Group. His wife is finishing up PA school right now. They're really doing well. Good. He still watches the Hawks with great intent and intensity.
That's awesome.
It's kind of fun to talk to him sometimes after games because he'll have some ideas for Phil Parker.
Okay.
And Phil always chuckles about it. And then, so every once in a while, Phil may write something down or it'll stick in his mind, right? And, it isn't there, so he'll say, boy, he was right. We missed that. Or, hey, he was right. We'll look into that. It's just interesting. Once a lot of players say this, once it gets in your blood, it's hard for it to leave. And his hasn't left yet.
Does he ever think he wants to get into coaching or anything like that? Or
you know what, Adam, I don't know. That's a good question. He has often said that the thing that he worries about in coaching is time.
Yeah.
He sees them now. I'll be curious. I'm just throwing it out there with all the stuff that's going on with COVID and how times have changed in hours. If maybe moving forward, coaches won't maybe spend as much time. I don't know that to be true or false. I just wonder, because COVID has forced everybody to think differently. And it'll be interesting come you pick the date, May 1st, June 1st, July 1st, when everybody thinks it's okay, whatever okay means. Are we going to go back to the way it was? Or are we going to, my guess is we'll find somewhere in the middle of what we just went through. And I think not only here, but all over.
Yeah.
People will think a lot about what we're doing and where we're going and what's important.
I was lucky enough a couple times to meet James, and he really is, as being his father, the epitome of what an Iowa football player is, just hardworking and dedicated and carries himself with a lot of class. And watching the Big Ten Network special that they did on you guys was really cool to kind of get a behind the scenes look of your guys' relationship and the love that you guys have for each other. That was just like, I loved it. It was one of the best ones they've ever done. So
I'm going to tell you a story about that. So they came to us, Big Ten Network, sometime I'll say in March or April, heading into the senior season. And Lynn my wife is a very private person. And the story, as everybody kind of found out, is very different, for a young man. Not unlike some of the other things that they've done, but the road that he traveled to get there, I think is a fair way to say it. And Lynn initially said no. this is our family deal, whatever. And, I'll give the Big Ten credit. They came back at us 2 months later, say late June, and said, hey, we really want you to think about this. But here's what we'll do for you. We won't put it on air until you see it. We will not do anything that you're not comfortable with. But by then, probably through Steve Rowe, I would guess, they learned a story that I had adopted the boys that previous to the adoption and Lynn and I getting together, that they'd gone through some tough stuff, not easy stuff. Yeah. And what their line to me, line's not fair. Their message to our family was this: if we can get one person, one family, one young person, one set of parents to change whatever change is, this whole thing's worth it. So I went back to Lynn with it, and she said, you know what? Okay, if they're going to agree to those things, we'll do it. So they came into town 2 different occasions. I'm going to share this with you. You're going to have a scoop, even though it's old. Okay.
Okay.
So they came here to our old football building, and they interviewed me, and then they were on their way out to Solon to interview Lynn. And it's Matt Engel was the lead guy on it, and I still talk to Matt today. Said, Matt, where are you guys going to eat? Oh, we'll find something in Corvallis. I said, come out to our town, Solon, Iowa. I said, we got a nice Mexican restaurant. If you guys, oh yeah, we love it. So he later admitted to me, like, we're going to a small town Iowa place to eat Mexican. Are you kidding me? You know what? We're in the middle of the heartland, right? Where's the beef? So anyway, we get them uptown Solon, and we had a great meal, and they met Lynn. Boy, did we have fun. I mean, we had a ball. And Lynn had never done an interview like this ever. And the only thing I told her, the important thing is, as much as you've learned, just be honest.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong. So anyway, they sit down, and Lynn starts to tell the story. And the cameraman said, oh, wait a minute, stop. I screwed up. And Lynn said, what? And, she thought she did something right. Well, the SD card that goes in the camera, to the memory chip.
Yep.
He forgot to put it in there.
Oh.
So what does Lynn do? Lynn runs to the fridge, slams 2 beers, sets back down. As they say, the rest is history.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Just to loosen up a little bit.
Yeah. You know what? It was a good deal. And what I will tell you, what really surprised me is this. Once that started, we did not go anywhere on the road that somebody from the opposing team didn't mention it.
Yeah.
So the power of media, the power of a positive story.
Yeah. And
it resonates with people. I still run into officials who were there when James played today that still ask about him, because the impact of that story and the impact he had while he played here at Iowa. So it was all good. It was all good.
That's great. That was, again, I'm biased, but one of my favorite episodes for sure. And tying into the fire department too, I wanted to kind of talk to you about that before we end things here. You're very active in the fire department there, and
I guess you can say that, right?
Yeah, raising money for the new firehouse. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about what you guys have going on, and if anybody wants to donate, where they can do that.
So this has been a lifelong kind of thing for me, being on a volunteer fire department. My mom's dad put 50 years in a volunteer fire department in Solon, where I live now. My dad was on the fire department in Solon 17 years, and I've been on 32 now.
Okay.
So about 2.5 years ago, we decided that we're out of room. We're a very busy fire department and we're still a very rural community. We cover 120 square miles. We'll run over 500 calls this year, morning, noon, and night. I'll tell you, I was up at 2:00 this morning. I haven't fallen asleep yet, so I'm not doing bad.
Wow.
But anyway, we had a medical call. But anyway, so we need a new building, and we could raise taxes and do all that, but we decided not to. We decided to raise the money for it. So we're in the middle of that campaign right now. We've raised almost $1.2 million. I'm really proud of that, because our fire chief helps me, and the guys who run our department help me, but it all goes through me. I mean, kind of know how busy I am, so it's not like I'm driving around, doing that all the time. But anyway, we're raising money for a new building. We're going to triple our size. Those of you who've been involved in poor government projects like that, where they build the thing for today and then tomorrow we're out of space, it's nothing like that. It's a big building. We have a lot of fun. So if you're interested, I'm gonna share this with you. You can Venmo us at Soul and Firehouse. My big wish is maybe you can start this for me.
All right.
Can we find 1 million people to give us $5 each? That's my goal.
Hey, we'll get it out there
somewhere, right?
Yeah, let's get it out there on social media.
Yeah, and then if people are interested in sending us a check, it's real easy. You just make the check out to SFA, it's Soul and Firefighter Association, and it's 131 North Iowa Street, Solon, Iowa, 52333. And then I'll tell you this, I'm going to let everybody know this. If you have any questions about it, you want to get involved, or you got some great ideas that we haven't thought about, and we're still looking for ideas, you can call me, 319-330-1775. There it is. It's out there.
All right.
You made my day by allowing me to do that. That's awesome.
Yeah, you're an open book there, giving out the phone number and everything.
Yeah, so, you know what I'll tell you, Adam, is this: the job that you have here, it is time consuming. There's a lot of 7 days a week. There's a lot of odd hours. I think the most important thing that I've learned is you got to have a little something different. And the fire department and our emergency medical service, part of our fire department, has allowed that for me. Some days, put a 12-hour day in or a rough day, you got to make some tough decisions. You go home at night, your pager goes off and somebody needs your help. If you can hold somebody's hand, simply hold their hand, put a smile on their face, the day's been worth it. Bottom line.
Your passion for the fire department definitely, is felt and seen through social media and everything that you do. So it's definitely inspiring. And I really hope that, people can get on and donate and, send a check. And can you say what the Venmo account is one more time?
Yeah, Venmo, it's just Soul and Firehouse.
Okay, Soul and Firehouse.
And like I said, I'm trying to find 1 million people to give us $5 each, and we'll be done. We'll be overdone.
That's great.
We may be able to put a wing on in your name, huh? What do you think?
Oh, geez, I don't know if you want that.
Hi, Adam. Maybe we can do that, huh?
All right. Well, hey, you got to dream. Yeah.
Hey, I have a saying. I have a big belief. You have to be a dreamer, because out of dreams come the unbelievable.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I like that.
And that's an original. I didn't steal that from anybody.
You just came up with that one on your own?
That one's all by myself.
That's pretty cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Hey, well, thank you so much for taking time out of your day.
Sure.
I could probably talk to you for another hour. I mean, you have so much cool stories and information, and we might have to catch back up, later on down the road and have a whole nother set of questions for you.
Sure. Adam, I'll share this with you. We talked before we started, and I enjoy doing these things only because I think sometimes people think maybe there's not as much of a human side to what we do than there is. And I think hopefully after we share a little bit today that people find out that, we do look out after young people and teach them how to work and get them ready to go when they leave this place. We've got one of our ex-students that's with the Chiefs that's going for ring number 2 this weekend. So that's kind of cool. I mean, and there's great stories in the business world like that. And I'll leave this leave this with you. Anytime you want to talk, get a hold of Steve Rowe. As long as he puts his stamp of approval on it, we're on.
All right. He seemed like a really great guy too. He was he was a lot of fun to talk to. He's like, he goes, I think I can trust Greg. He's a pretty darn good guy. So
like, I better call him or take him out for a beer tonight after saying that, right?
Absolutely. I'm sure he'd love that. He was a good guy. I was pleasantly surprised how easy he was to talk to. So
that's good to hear. No, Steve's a good guy. When James was in his senior year and was up for those awards and doing that, he and Steve got to become good friends and know each other. And we became close. Our families did, because we really relied on his help for us, James getting where he needed to get to it in the right people, places, and things. And he's a super human being, super guy.
Great. Well, again, thanks for taking time. There's a lot of fun talking to you. Best wishes to you and your family.
Thank you.
To James, to everybody. And
good deal.
Hope everyone's doing well, and go Hawks, and hopefully we can have an awesome 2021 football season this year.
Amen to that, brother. Adam, thanks again. I had a ball.
All right, I did too. Thanks a lot.
Take care.